David.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Please be quiet.
All right, folks, we've got our technology in order, so to speak. All right, I'm going to call this public hearing of the Washington Planning Commission to order. I'm going to seat myself and Dimmy and Carol and Jennifer and David. Okay, we have a 5-lot subdivision proposal. Arthur H. Holland and Associates for Schiller 37 Popple Swamp Road. We had a preliminary discussion last month about this and saw some of the preliminary things. There was a few additional things that were added. Mainly, there was a revision to the map. Can I share my screen here?
Yeah, you should be able to. Please mute yourself. Or I'll mute you for you. There you go.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Can we make it? Do I need to make it bigger, or is it okay? I have a larger version.
Oh, well, that's
This is for the benefit of the folks on Zoom. It's frustrating to be tuning into a meeting and not be able to see what we're talking about. So we have actual maps here. Probably a little bigger. Okay, so from the last time we saw this, I believe, well, Paul, you're here. There was a revision made to the access way, I believe. If you could just speak to that, and then we have other things to ask about as well. But if you could just address any changes that we see in this map compared to what we saw the last time, that would be in our preliminary discussion.
For the record, Paul Smansky, professional engineer representing the applicant, Mr. Schiller. So since the last meeting a month ago, the sole modification made to the plan is at the entranceway off of Churchill Road. Previously, we had shown one driveway that was servicing lot 5 and lot number 3, and a separate driveway that was servicing lot number 4. What we've done is merged those together, so we have one frontage lot, 2 interior lots served off of that driveway. So that's the revision that was made since last month.
Okay, no other revisions. The public will have a chance to speak once we.
fine. East, west, where Popple is, where's Upper Churchill on that?
Sure.
map? I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Can you see my mouse here?
Yes.
Okay, this is Upper Churchill Road. And here's where it bends towards Sunset Lane. Here is the proposed access way. This over here is Popple Swamp Road.
Oh, okay.
Heading down, there's your north arrow right there. Well, Sunset is kind of going towards Sunset. Sunset is kind of over.
It's off the map.
It's off the map. Sunset's off the map. Okay, thank you, Paul.
Yep.
Okay, in terms of the requirements for the application, we still have a couple things that we're not sure are in place yet. One is a stormwater management plan. I'm not sure, although we have them for separate lots, do we not?
Yeah, so each of these, everything sheet flow as it relates to the driveways, because all of the lots are extremely level. And then each of the groups just have a series of splash pads because of the size of the lot.
And I think in the other submissions, it was broken out by person. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Do we have written approval by the health department?
We submitted that on June 21st.
We said, you know, we got something on your letterhead, but we get it from them.
That I am not aware of because there's that reference.
If we
I
received it.
didn't see that.
Okay, so we're still waiting on that. So to our knowledge, we have not received it actually from the health department. I think you're right. They sent it directly to us.
Yeah, there's.
As of today,
Not when I
haven't seen it.
checked the file.
we haven't seen it. Okay, open space. I understand that the applicant wants to do a fee in lieu of.
That's correct.
Okay, we need that in writing. We also,
I believe we did it on response.
okay, well, the other thing though is that, one of the things you may wish to consider is that according to the regulations, we have to have an appraisal of the property at your expense. It seems a little silly since it was so recently purchased. It seems reasonable that the purchase price could be used as the basis for the fee in lieu of.
That's what.
We would be fine with that. However, we would have to waive the requirement, which is not a problem, but you have to make that waiver request in writing.
Okay.
It's just the way it has to be done. Okay, approval of Board of Summer Town Road and Town Road drainage plans if applicable. There's no public improvement, and is that access way already a driveway cut? It's an existing drive, okay, so it's an existing cut. Okay. Okay, I'm assuming there are no existing or proposed easements, shared driveways, utilities, or, I mean, other than what's indicated on the map already. Okay, so we still don't have all the documentation for the fee in lieu of open space.
We could put that request through.
Okay, and we still don't have the actual sign off from the health department. Okay, it looks like everything. Oh, okay, so those seem to be the only two things that we're missing at this
Yeah,
point.
and I think they addressed the questions that the Northwest Hills Council of Governments had regarding the surveyor certifying the chain of title.
And I saw that you supplied a change of title.
Yeah,
That's
just showing there.
that's fine. Just for your, the COG also was wondering whether it was a subdivision or re-subdivision. And they then correctly noted that if it was a subdivision, you didn't have to have a public hearing. They're wrong. That's incorrect. You had to be here you had to be here no matter what, because it's more than 3 lots.
Yeah, and this
So-
was, back in 1978, this was approved as a 39 lot. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So, well, obviously that expired. Yeah. It's like, okay.
And then the
That's
fire
really-
marshal, the fire marshal reviewed everything, and he said that they have adequate access for emergency vehicles, and that he does not have the authority to require a cistern to be
Mhm.
available to the fire department, but you know,
Well, considering the
it's up to
lot,
them.
other than the spot not to be developed, is pretty level. It's, usually when you have a steep slope issue and fire department worries about trying to snake up an uphill driveway and whatnot. Yeah. If they're worried about getting a tanker truck on the property, that's usually when they require a cistern. But that's not the case here. Okay. All right. Okay, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. The applicant is here. Is there anything that you would wish to add to the application or any? Yes, we did.
I mentioned also that the Inland Wetlands Commission weighed in on this.
That's right.
And they approved the application, they approved the subdivision, and they noted in their approval that obviously as each lot gets developed, that they will have to come for each individual
Mhm.
lot being developed for activity within the review area and, or water course or anything, you know,
Right,
within
and
that
then
matter.
for, yeah, so for wetlands purposes for the subdivision, they just need to, it needs to be conceptual,
Mhm.
which this clearly is. Okay, I'm gonna allow the commissioners to ask questions first, and then I'll open it up to the public. I'm willing to go first unless anybody else has a question. Okay. I just had a question here about this, the two access ways. It seems a little, I mean, it complies with the regulations, but it seems a little odd that, you know, that this access way here that goes to lot 4 is on lot 3, and this is lot 3. But this access way to lot 3 cuts all the way through lot, oh, no, I'm sorry, this is lot 4, this is lot 5 down here. And this one cuts all the way through lot 3. I'm wondering why you just don't use the access way that's already on lot 5 to access lot 5.
The area where you're pointing, it's actually just underground utilities. So
Yeah,
it's,
well, this section here is undergrounded, but this is an access way to lot 4, correct?
correct.
Which,
There's some of these lots are being utilized between members and stuff. So there's good reason about it.
okay,
Speak up, please. What you said.
Yeah, I said there's some of these lots are utilized between common family members, so there's reasons for the layouts of the lot as the way it is.
okay,
It's in compliance with regulations.
right, I know, as I said, yeah, it's in compliance, it just struck us as, it was curious, it was
Yep.
odd why you would cross another lot to access a lot when you already had an access way on the lot. It just seemed a little odd at first glance, but if there's common family members, that makes sense. That was the one question I had. Any other commissioners, do you have anything else that you would want to? If not, I'm happy to open it to the public. I would just ask, that when I recognize you, you just state your name and your road, and then, let us know what's on your mind. So who would like to go first? Sure, sir.
Hi, thanks. I'm Peter Lloyd.
Okay.
I'm on Poplar. A letter on behalf of about 35 residents of the town yesterday. So make sure you keep everything.
Yes.
By our top.
Mhm.
Perfect. So, a couple of things and then we'd like to read into the record. Is that-
Well, it's in the
That will-
record already.
They can, if they,
If you want
Choose
to read
to.
it into the record, but if you want to read this sentence, it's already in the record. It's in the file. So, I mean, you can read it out loud if you want, but
and it won't be written out in the minutes.
yeah, it's like if you
That's
think
not
it's
what
gonna
it's-
be written out in the minutes, it won't. This will be attached to the minutes, but and live in the file.
There are people who are here that don't think I've heard the substance of the letter, so if it's all right with you guys, I
We
think,
just take turns.
Yeah, we'll
spend
take
a lot of
turns.
time in on this.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
And I'll
I
start by
mean,
saying that there were 35 residents. The neighborhood of Upper Churchill and Popplestone. And, but I think actually we speak for many hundreds of residents of the town. You go to Popplestone and any one day, you go tomorrow at 8 o'clock. You'll see 6 cars parked there and people walking with their kids and dogs. And an hour later, you'll see a different set of 6 cars and 10 o'clock, like tomorrow, you'll have another set of cars. So I think it's very broadly valued by the town. And I think it's very broadly valued for a number of reasons. One is the open space.
okay, you do realize that's private property.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you're talking about the public utilizing private property.
Well, specifically, for example, like in the 2002.
Oh, okay, all right, go ahead. That's like,
I mean, yeah, so I think people value it for a number of reasons. One is at 1,000 feet, so it's a great breeze, and it's a beautiful road. And it's a beautiful road because of the dense wetlands and the open space, all on this lot and other lots, other parts of the water, Copple Swamp, of the church. And again, I think it's broadly used. And I think the subdivision plan, really very squarely contradicts the 2003 plan of conservation and development as reiterated by the 2014 plan of development. And I think the 2002 open space plan actually has a certain set of principles. They were almost drafted as if in description of 37 Copple Swamp. I'd like to read them. The open space plan of 2002 stated that it is an implicit goal to provide the additional open space selectively to protect the town's natural and other order of priority. So these are the four. I thought this was great. Lands used for farming. Number two, surface and subsurface water resources, especially wetlands and stream belts, wildlife habitat, threatened or critical. And then unique or significant natural features. The three listed are scenic vistas, ridge lines, and scenic roads. So these are kind of a perfect description of this area. And why we think it's worth observing. But we were just learned actually some subdivisions that were obviously very aware of the sale. But because there was inadequate notice under 443 of the subdivision regulations of the town, no signage, nothing, no notice of this meeting, we were unable to prepare and talk to the that's our concern at the prior meeting before this, because we just weren't aware of it. We actually became aware of it on July 26th, 27th. So there's no signage at all. You go there right now, or you go there, you won't see a sign as required, of course, notifying public at this meeting. So I'm not sure what, I think the issue isn't properly considered at this meeting, but that's a narrow formal point. The substantive point is that I think it should be conserved. It has great value to the town, and we think identified by the broad usage of it. So we appreciate the commission's consideration.
Okay, how do you propose that we would make a private property owner conserve their land?
We have the right to approve a subdivision in your state.
Well, approving subdivision is kind of a binary process, folks. It's like, if the applicant meets all the requirements, we pretty much have to approve it. And if they don't meet the requirements, we have to deny it. There's not a lot of, there's not, unlike the zoning regulations, we don't have a special permit process. Okay, it's, if the applicant meets the requirements, they get their subdivision, basically. And if they don't, they don't. So the idea that we could do an eye of the beholder subjective, well, I don't think this should be subdivided because I like it the way it is not really something that's in the planning commission's purview.
We're not experts. How does something like these documents, plan, get incorporated into town planning? At the commission level, or is there some?
Well, the planning
Or is it
commission is
all-
responsible for the plan, but the POCD is a guiding document. It's not a regulation. So it is it's a long-range guide for the community, but it doesn't have regulatory force or force of law.
Okay, doesn't that mean that planning commission work entirely?
Well, we would hope that people wouldn't ignore it,
Okay.
although we have seen instances where other commissions we will have. But again, we're talking about a subdivision. And we have separate subdivision regulations in the town of Washington. And if an applicant applies for a subdivision and if they meet all the requirements, we pretty much have to approve the subdivision. Otherwise, the town would be sued and we'd lose.
So I think my broader point that, we think this subdivision does violate the, development conservation plan. And they don't inform the, seeking, then I'm not sure what value they have. And then our narrow point is that, 443 hasn't been satisfied.
Well, you're here now, and chances are this hearing is going to be continued. So that,
And there are state statutes that, I mean, that's the best we can do.
Yeah, this is just, a dialogue, we're not gonna, we're.
That's fine. No,
Right now,
it's-
so we're just
we-
trying to
we-
understand how this works.
we're here to hear it all,
Okay.
okay? So, I don't know if my response helped at all.
Can you actually clarify that? Because this is actually from the 443 is from, it's from your regulations.
About the signage.
Yes,
Mhm.
so they're supposed to be posted around the neighborhood
They're supposed to be posted on the property.
and the streets around the property. They're not posted on the property to the exterior, and they're not.
I'm sorry?
You can.
We have a strip of land on 9, so
Okay, it's on, let me help. I understand what Paul just said. Let me, since this is picking me up and the people can hear me pretty well on Zoom. Let me just creep this down a little bit and show you. Okay, you see here where it says the match line?
Yep.
Okay, that means that part of this parcel actually goes off the map. And over here is where it continues. There's this tiny little 50-foot access way that actually contacts Churchill Road. And since that is the most traveled road in the neighborhood, that's where the sign is posted. And certified letters were sent to all abutting property owners.
Absolutely, never known.
yeah.
Are you an abutting property owner? If you,
I think we're just waiting for Mr. Mayor also to confirm.
Well, I have all the receipts here.
I'm abutting everything.
And if you don't have your right address with the assessors, that's on you.
So I hope that explains the sign issue.
Yeah, I think also, I'm Justin Schwartz, my wife and I are two kids live on Concord.
Okay.
So I guess our other question is because many of us have heard a few days ago. When I look at this wetlands map, it looks like a gerrymandered map of, trying to create a voting, block. Because I know that you need 3 acres of developable land. And I'm sure that Mr. Howland's office made sure that those 3 acres are there. But I think some of the people who live in this neighborhood know that there's high groundwater, that there are wetlands on our land, and it's protected. And so I think we are concerned, now that we're knowing about this, we want a little more information about the soil testing, and maybe we want to test the soil ourselves, because many of the, the proposed buildings, while I know those are proposed and that wetlands will continue to have purview over those, they are well within the 100-foot setback on some of them, the regulated setback. And we're concerned that this is, that's those 2 properties, I'm talking lot 1 and 2, are really one property. But that's, kind of been jerry-rigged in to fit in. And it's really playing loose with the protecting the wetlands and, the regional wildlife corridors. I mean, there's an intermittent stream, which is what is dividing them. So I think a number of people who are concerned about the wetlands and that area, and knowing that, we're only seeing more rain, with, whether or not you believe in climate change. You just, this past few, the thunderstorms in Washington, you can understand there's been flooding at, Amy's Farms and maybe.
I
you can
think,
speak up.
yeah, no, I think I'm thinking the opposite. We have property at 34 Churchill. And we are already in conversation with the town, discussing some significant flooding that continues to happen down the Popple Swamp line from the stop sign down the hill. And the biggest concern I have from a wetlands preservation and a flood guide is the fact that these two, which I do understand that Mr. Schiller is not suggesting he's planning for these two houses right now, but if those are the only places that those houses can go, it doesn't feel appropriate to wait until they get sold and then have this conversation next time over for those two houses. And I think it is, you know, worth mentioning that, at least from my perspective, that I don't have any personal concerns about Mr. Schiller's desire to build a house and to build a beautiful home. And it sounds like he's doing wonderful things across the entire property. I also know, having spoken to him, that he has lots of interest in sustainability and in various elements of protecting the natural land. But these two lots 1 and 2, feel particularly challenging to accept all of the commitments and promises when you see those two houses shoved in there along the street. And, you know, I'm not personally taking exception with what's happening to the left of that. It feels very well planned, but that seems very challenging to me. And I do wish I had the opportunity to speak at the zoning commission and at the wetlands commission. I was unaware of the meetings. I tried very hard.
It didn't come to the Zoning zoning,
Hasn't
didn't go to
The
zoning.
wetlands, you know, again, was not notified, which I do realize a lot of what we're bringing up now are wetlands issues, but it's probably not the original.
Well, wetlands, like Wayne said, is the conceptual. They just have to prove the conceptual layout. They have to approve this layout. They really don't come into play until each of these parcels are brought forth with a plan of development. And it depends, you know, they're going to look at how things are drained, where the water is going, you know, how they're going to protect the wetlands when all this construction is going on. It's not the whole parcel, it's each individual parcel that this is going to be divided into, and it's going to be by each proposed project.
So in other words, so this is a proposed 5-lot subdivision. If it gets built out that way, the applicant would have to go to wetlands 5 separate times for each one. So what's required at this stage is they have to show conceptually that 5 houses could be built on this parcel as shown and as subdivided. And the Wetlands Commission did a site visit. They walked through it and they said that conceptually this is fine.
I'd just like to point out that lot 1 is a 13+ acre lot, and lot 1 is the top lot.
This
The
one.
second lot 2 is a 7.5 acre parcel. And they have positioned both of the, according to the way the map is drawn, they've positioned the properties to avoid wetlands at maximum potential. So considering that we're talking about 7 acres in which they're trying to place a house that could be built on 2 acres, they've managed to do it to the best of their ability. And to reiterate, the wetlands conceptual approval has seen that and has conceptually approved it, and as noted, would have to review when specifically developed. So I think we understand your concern, but we're also not the Wetlands Commission. So as much as we appreciate that, I think as has been stated, we can't really do much about that. Wetlands has approved what has been put before us. If they had not approved what was put before us, we would be in a very different conversation, but they have.
No.
No, not
Well,
at this
not
level.
at this stage. When when someone actually goes to build one of these houses, you know, then they have to go to wetlands, and then there would be a public hearing at that point.
And it would be specific to the actual parcel that's being developed at that particular point.
More notice requirement for
I'm not on the wetlands. No.
It's on the agenda
It's
and
on
we
the
don't
agenda.
have, they usually don't have public hearings. If,
I mean, they can have public hearings.
there is a
But
process,
it's may rather than shall.
Just trying to
if
figure out how we
that
would
makes
stay
sense.
abreast of.
Well,
the agenda gets
the
posted
their agendas get posted before, they meet every 2 weeks.
every 2 weeks and per statute, it has to be posted 24 hours before the meeting. And the reason why it's posted 24 hours before the meeting is because people like to submit things at the last minute. Can't have it all.
One that might not make any, I just was listening to your first part of your presentation, and it just, could you clarify, what does fee in lieu of open space mean to the general public?
Oh, okay, in the town of Washington, we have a regulation, that requires when someone is subdividing land, that they set aside a certain portion of it for open space. If they don't want to set aside the open space, they can pay a fee in lieu of the open space, and that fee goes to the town's open space fund. There are certain cases where the open space requirement can be waived. For example, for affordable housing, it can be waived if the property in question is being divided amongst family members for no monetary concern. That's not the case here, so there is an open space requirement. The applicant has expressed a desire to pay the fee, which actually the town prefers.
Except for if you have a lot of open space.
Well, no, well, first of all, the town set a goal 20-some years ago of 30% permanently preserved open space. We're there. I don't know if you realize it or not, but we're there. One of the advantages of getting the money is that when a property becomes available that has high conservation value, the town has the funds to seek acquiring. Many times, folks will designate land as open space in a subdivision by just picking the part of the land that's really crappy. Can I say crappy in a public hearing? And has a land that has minimal marginal conservation value, and then the town is stuck trying to monitor it. And worse than that, the parcels end up being discontiguous. You know, if you looked at the open space that's been donated to the town over the past 20 years since we put this regulation in place, it looks like somebody fired birdshot at the map. And if you know anything about, I'm not a conservation expert, but I do know that when you conserve land, and if you talk to the folks at Steep Rock, they'll tell you this, they want it to be as contiguous as possible because that's best for the flora and fauna and whatnot. But anyway, in this case, the applicant has opted to pay the fee.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that. I understand the concern for open space. I understand the concern for the area of Popple Swamp, which I also I don't want to comment about the house that's further down up the Churchill Road, which is interesting. But if you look at this property, if you look at the way this property is being shown, huge portions of the property, especially on the corner of Popple and Upper Churchill, is not going to be touched. It's going to remain exactly intact as it currently is, partly because it is wetlands. And therefore, yeah, I can't do anything with it anyway. Nice of you to own it.
Yeah.
The other side, although it's more of an interior, it's not exactly a publicly exposed road area, but that area is also largely left untouched. there's a huge slope area going down to, whatever, Walker Brook. So in terms of open space that's being allocated out, that's being excluded from development in this 100-some acre parcel, it's significant. And yet on top of the fact that that significant area is being, by virtue of its topography, set aside, the applicant is still paying in lieu of. So you're getting a win-win out of that, in that a significant portion of this property is being left untouched. And the town is going to benefit from a fee in lieu of as well. So the placement of the houses on Popple Swamp, that's a slightly different situation, but then there are other houses on Popple Swamp that are right on the road as well, and visible, and clearly accessible. So I just want to sort of point out to you that there's an aspect of what's being presented here that is not a disruption of the kind that could be imagined if this were not being done in the way in which it's being planned.
It's, well, it is calculated based, well, normally it is, an appraisal is done. An appraisal is done based on the state of the land at the time of the application. Because this property was purchased so recently, we would probably accept the purchase price as the basis to determine the fee. The applicant is free to request that. They have to do it in writing. And we could waive the appraiser requirement, which I think we, since the property was purchased so recently, what's the point of making them get an appraisal? We all know what the property is worth. You can go down the hall and look it up.
The percentage of the value.
That's 10% of the appraised value, and it goes to the open space fee, and it can be paid all at once, or it can be paid as the lots are developed. That's the choice is up to the applicant. So you typically what we would do in a case like this is we would, since it's a 5-lot subdivision, and since we assume the applicant's probably going to want to build a house, we would require one of those payments to be made with the approval. Or the applicant has the option to pay the whole thing at once if they want. It's up to them.
Wayne, how long has the property been on the market?
Oh, I'm not a realtor, but I think it was on the market for years. I mean,
10 plus years.
so long I couldn't remember.
On the
Corner, north, east corner. What is that corner?
This area here, this is part of lot 3.
Yeah, on a side note, the fact that a significant amount of money is going to be given to the town for open space, the next time the Whiteheads want to sell a parcel, maybe we should buy it. No, I'm saying that when a fee in lieu is put into the town funds to be able to preserve parcels of land that are of critical conservation value.
In partner with the town?
No, the town has the right to outright buy it, or they can give the money to some organization to purchase it, such as Steep Rock. They can partner with Steep Rock to do that, or other conservation or interested parties, okay? There's a number of ways it can be used, but the liquidity of the fund is available. And therefore, when a property is being put on the market, interested parties have the opportunity to petition for that money to be used for that purpose. And that could be any parcel anywhere in town that fits the criteria of a valued piece of conservation land.
Yes, fine.
Linda Craig, sure. I'm trying to understand why someone would be happy to pay the fee in lieu of conserving land that can't be used because it's wetlands. And it's a part of the parcel that the neighbors are very concerned, they're concerned about that visual roadscape there.
Mhm.
And as we drive through, most of these houses will be invisible to us. I understand that and appreciate it. But we like the way it looks now. And, is that in perpetuity? That nothing can be changed? That if wetland conditions change on property, could you go back and make it saleable property because he paid the fee?
Well, if there's no dedicated open space, the land is private land.
Yes.
It still has to abide by all the rules that all of us have to abide by. Now, what those rules look like 20, 30, 50 years from now, I have no idea, and none of us do. But I'm pretty sure that that corner that's wet right now is probably still gonna be wet 50 years from now. I mean, I mean, or more wet. I mean, you know, so you take that for what it's worth. I mean, as to why someone would choose to pay rather than, everybody has their own reasons for doing what they do with their land. I mean, when you were on conservation back when we passed the law, passed the regulation allowing the town to establish an open space fund and set up the regulations that had the open space set aside. At the time, because I was here then too, it was thought that most people would pay the fee rather than, dedicate the land. In fact, what happened was the opposite. Very few people have paid the fee. Most people have just picked chunks of their land that had marginal value and gifted it to the town.
Yeah, I mean, very often the conservation easement is used as a screening method, for example. There are a number of ways. I don't know if Paul's still here, but he mentioned that this lot. Well, how many units have been put on that back in the 80s or 70s? Okay, here's to the point. In 1978, how many? 39 lots were allowed on this single property. That means in 1978, the wetlands requirements would have put multiple houses in what is now reserved wetlands area. So the fact that we are attentive to the value and to the conservation value is evident just by looking at this map, because otherwise you'd be looking at 39 or 37, whatever units on this piece of land. So the fact that planning and zoning and conservation and wetlands all work in consort to try to preserve the nature of this community and the value of its properties is evident just by the fact that this is not 39 acres units we're talking about. It's 5. And that's to the credit of that process over time to value the resources and to conserve the land properly and proper use of it, as well as septic. You can imagine what 7 or 8 units in that wetlands area would be like as a septic system. So on my own house in 1950 had a septic system in what is now considered wet, and unfortunately failed. And I unfortunately had to pay for a rather expensive engineered system in the little bit of land that was available. So I understand the regulations change, but that should be something you take heart in terms of the value of this community moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Poplar Swamp when I came here, and Poplar Swamp 100 years before.
It's named for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a swamp.
My money's on it still being a swamp 50 years from now.
And you're welcome to it.
Any other questions? Yes, yes, ma'am.
I'm Cynthia O'Neilly. I respect the legality of this discussion. I think that there's a moral aspect to this discussion. And I would like to ask Mr. Schiller a question. Edwin Whitehead was my husband's best friend. He sat in our living room and he said that as a condition of the sale, that you had promised him that you were not going to go more than one house. Could you please explain to us what your thinking was when you talked to Edwin Whitehead?
this is a public hearing. You really have to address your comments to us.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, it's like,
I still don't know the answer.
but you know, the applicant is not required to address the public and,
I respect that.
yeah, I mean, I can I understand I understand your concerns. But this is a public hearing held under state law. And so comments or questions have to be addressed to the commission. Okay, so I'm sorry.
I'm asking the commission to present.
That's not within our
That's
purview.
not within our purview. It's like the,
I assume that Mr. Schiller would like this opportunity to address all. This might be a good one.
I cannot ask Mr. Schiller to do that. I will not ask Mr. Schiller to do that.
Mr. Heilman,
No, you're not called on and you didn't raise your hand.
how does one raise their hand on Zoom?
There's a
Will
process.
restrain from commenting at any time, except on two things. One, I have already met with members of the community and had an opportunity to talk with me in an appropriate setting. It was very forthcoming. Two, I won't comment on any specifics of the private conversation with the very wonderful man, C-SPAN, except to say that that statement is false. There were no promises, there were no representations given. I sat with Margie since Edwin's passing. If she chooses to speak with you about the nature of our private conversations, that's her choice. I don't think a public setting.
Raise your hand on the account.
For the community. That's recently a Sunday this week. Okay. Leave me as a name.
Okay, I appreciate that, but then I'll address the commission. I have spoken to them. And that's all I'm saying.
All right,
There's a moral aspect to this. That's my question.
our job here is to assess an application for a subdivision. Our role here is defined by state statute.
And I'm not
So-
even one to shame, I just said, this is a burning question.
That is publishing. That is the definition of publishing.
So, are there any other questions or comments from the public?
Mr. Sussman seems to have a need to talk.
Okay, there's Mr. Sussman, you're on Zoom. If you have a question or a comment, please. Dr. Sussman, it just says John Sussman. There's no way I could know.
Go
Dr.
ahead.
Sussman, you're on.
Oh, he's off. Where's AI when we need it?
I would be there.
Are there other members on Zoom who would like to comment or ask a question?
Yes, please.
There he is.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm so sorry if I'm technologically not doing things right. This is John Sussman. Dr. John Sussman, I live at 118 Upper Churchill Road. Are you hearing me before I continue?
Just fine. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Heilman. I have lived at 118, which is directly across from the property that is being built on by Bruce Gordon. And I live right at the curve of Upper Churchill Road that is shown on this property map. And in the 38 years that I've lived here, I raised my kids here. I've been a physician at New Milford Hospital, serving the public with obstetrics and gynecology. I have seen multiple serious car accidents around that curve, including the son of our previous postal worker, Nick, who had a compound fracture and needed to be helicoptered out, I believe, at some point. There have been more minor accidents. I am very concerned about the access to lots 3, 4, and 5 that are being shown on this map. It is a dangerous curve, and the construction trucks that will be in and out of there, the utility trucks, just a couple of days ago, I think there was Eversource, several vehicles parked there. You couldn't see it until you were around the curve. And I'm just very concerned that 3 lots and all the attending construction that goes with that will be a safety issue. And I'd like the police department to weigh in on their history of reported accidents over the years. And I think DOT should do a study to make sure that that is a safe place for egress and ingress to the properties.
Okay, thank you. I can tell you, well, for one, the DOT won't weigh in because it's not a state road. Those are all, the road in question, Upper Churchill is a town road. In terms of the actual driveway cut, I believe driveway cuts are approved by the Board of Selectmen. So that the driveway cut is not an issue for us. And plus, there's already a cut there. The applicant is not proposing an additional cut. The access, the cut that's being shown on the map already exists. So there's no additional egress onto Upper Churchill Road proposed in this application. Now, there will be activity, of course, because there's literally no activity on that parcel right now. So because there are no dwellings on that parcel. That's all I can say at this point.
The only activity that I'm used to is Edwin going in and cutting hay from time to time. And that's going to change drastically, and it's going to be a safety issue, and people are likely to get hurt given my 36 years of experience living here.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Probably there. As far as I had my daughter concerned, I had no objection at all. I think it's a superior layout. I see a few subdivisions.
Well, we appreciate the full disclosure. Thank you, sir.
We haven't seen you since you divided.
Yeah, he's a former satisfied customer, by the way. So, are there any other? Yes, sir.
So Justin Schwartz. So I had a question just because I think many of us, as we were speaking earlier, just had a question about the wetlands specifically that are dictating that 3 acres of available buildable lot. And so we were wondering what recourse neighbors have if, because I know that these soil samples were done by Arthur Howland's company. And I know Arthur Howland, it's been around for a long time and has a good reputation. Is there some sort of process if we want to test the soil ourselves? No.
You mean
It's
as you?
private
No,
property.
if we want to request the town
to
confirm those soil samples are correct. So and that's based on Amy's experience of living right next door and knowing and I mean, we all have high groundwater.
It's actually, I mean, yes, I do have an experience next door, they have an instinct water coming down Household Road, but the bigger concern is that the wetland tables change over a period of time. So depending on when they were tested, and I think that's the question
Well, there is a recent soil map on the assessor's website. If you go on there and you can see on one of the layers, it's from the, no, it's, I had the,
Well, I mean, the company, GI.
no, the NSDA, shoot. No. It was the national, let me just get it up. I can't even.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
So it has the soil types, and anything that is orange is wetland soils. And anything that is a shade of purple is poorly drained or steep slopes.
Do you have that version on this map? Because I know that it comes in later.
So if you go on the assessor's website and
This
you,
is not from the assessor.
Okay.
This is
It's
a
on our
PDF.
existing conditions map as well. There's also test pits that were certified. at health district. Show the soil test results.
Yes, we haven't, I did not put that map up, but we do have a map. A map was submitted that shows the soil types for the properties. For us, what's important is that there's compliance with the minimum lot size. Right, so, and wetlands reviewed this with that in mind when they signed off before. Yes, you have a question. They were recently updated,
they
right?
were recently updated.
They were recently
Yeah, like
updated.
within the
Yeah,
last,
so there's two types of soils testing.
Right.
So first is just a general soils map.
Right.
Which is shown on our existing conditions map. Then our soil scientist Spencer Miles did hundreds of audits throughout the property to establish the wetland boundaries. Then on top of that, we had soils testing in each of the areas of the septic systems, which were third-party reviewed by the Housatonic Valley Health District. So if you look on our maps, it shows things like the depth of the modeling, the depth of the groundwater, the different soil profiles, and they're consistent with what everyone's saying here today, especially the ones opposite Amy's property.
And GWD.
Yeah, they're on our maps. June 13th, 2023.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes.
I'm Marguerite Brunel, 125 Cobblestone Road, Cornwall.
Welcome.
But I have property here in Washington, lived in Washington for 20 years. I'm a former chair of the wetlands. I heard about this last Thursday and took a drive down there. There's no sign, there's no notification sign whatsoever. It's a requirement for the statute. It has to be up 10 days before the meeting. It has to be up the entire length of the meeting. And it has to be in an area which is very visual. So I didn't see anything. I went very closely along that little section of 109. There is no sign announcing this. And I went by again today just to see whether or not I missed something. So that's a fundamental flaw for your hearing. This hearing should have been closed down. It really is not actually valid. So that's a bit of a problem. But that's a procedural problem, and that doesn't mean that you can't reschedule a public hearing. I do want to point out a couple of things about the property. This is the headwaters area of Walker Brook. That's a very sensitive area. Those areas are usually designated for conservation and not having a great deal of development in it. I appreciate the fact that there's a sort of fewer lots that are currently proposed, but we see the extent of the wetlands. Tell you that certainly the areas in which the soil tests were done for the potential septic areas, almost every single one of those soil tests shows either at 24 inches or shallower. That's the definition of wetlands in Connecticut. And so, you know, their Wetlands Commission maybe needs to, sort of look a little bit more closely. I know they've already approved it. Don't know how they approved it because it's a significant impact. The driveway, the main driveway that comes in off of Upper Churchill Road goes through wetlands. That is technically a significant impact to wetlands. You have to have a public hearing. I don't know what they were thinking. They went ahead and approved it, maybe because it's a feasibility issue. And, you know, for feasibility purposes, you know, this looks like it might work out. There's some other permitting required at the state level where you actually, within the 100-foot upland review area, you're not supposed to have construction. Construction, not structures. So this has been something that's just relatively new within the last couple of years, and it's permitted in DEP. So it's permitted through the state. So you know, there's some issues, and I believe that the planning commission really can and has the opportunity to potentially work with the applicant to potentially utilize, I mean, the commission doesn't have to take the fee in lieu of, you can do the 15%. And you guys could work together to actually solve the problems. The applicant would get the majority of what they would like. Additional protections will be provided for the wetlands and for some of the visual and vistas that have been in there. I will also add that the Plan of Conservation and Development identifies this particular parcel as agriculture. It actually also goes further to identify this particular parcel as the future land use map of the town of Washington. This parcel, this entire 121 or 119 acres, whichever it is identified for agriculture. So, you know, development for residential use is not ag. The last thing that I will say about wetlands is my personal experience through the years. People keep on thinking that wetlands are not buildable. That is not true. You're not supposed to do it. It's kind of dumb, but it happens from time to time. And it happens, you know, ag is allowed in this area. You can have agricultural buildings and driveways servicing those areas. So if there aren't going to be protections placed on some of these properties that are currently wetlands, where we're all being a little complacent about the fact that, oh, they're wetlands, nothing's ever going to happen to them. You know, the planning commission can work in conjunction with the applicant and, you know, can ensure that those areas will not be further developed. And maybe the applicant would be willing to go down to 4 lots. I don't know, you know, it's a suggestion. It's a suggestion that would potentially benefit certainly the natural resources of Washington, benefit the neighborhood. It would benefit, you know, certainly the open space requirements that have always been something that Washington has cared about, as well as the vistas and view sheds. So I hope the commission will go back and look at their planning documents and see whether or not they believe this is consistent. Frankly, I don't even think this public hearing should be being held. I think this is, you're not in compliance with those things. So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. I would ask the applicant or his agent to verify whether the signage. Okay, so, I mean. Well, he just said he would put more than one. One is required. I mean, but more is better. That's fine. Thank you. I would say that in terms of the future land use map on the plan, that there's a conceptual future land use map. It's not, so.
What do you describe your purpose? Conceptual land use map, is that relevant to your purposes or not? I just don't understand.
I will go back to what I said at the onset of the public hearing, that subdivision applications are pretty much binary processes. If an applicant comes before the commission with a subdivision application and they meet all the requirements, pretty much they get their subdivision. It's, if they don't meet the requirements, they don't.
I can respond. I've been on this commission for 30 years. And I can tell you that every time we put forward an idea about how the town should value or respond to its growth, we can sit there and we can say, we think these are good and important things, as you pointed out, we're discussing. It then becomes a matter of whether the town and its community actually takes that to heart. And I can tell you over 30 years, it largely hasn't. In many ways, that we as a planning commission would have felt very valuable to the community. Not the least of which is affordable housing, which has been relatively ignored for the 30 years I've sat on this commission and is now at a critical stage. Our conservation goal of 30% was set 30%, and it's been largely steep up, which we're very fortunate to have. But that opportunity still is available to the community, and we set the guidelines for what we thought were valuable places. We have done so over the course of those 30 years. The fact that a parcel comes along that we had valued 25 years ago as something that should be saved, and nobody tries to save it, and then it becomes sold to somebody who very intelligently goes about figuring out how to put a house on it, has been noted. I mean, I've seen a lot of plans. This one's good. So, you know, I caution you all, if you want to preserve more land in this town that you find valuable, keep your eyes on what's for sale. Because we have no control over it. We can only tell you. We think these things are important. And we think there's a use that can be better served, the community can be better served through. And then it becomes the community that has to take that to heart and do it. And so, yes, to your answer, yeah, we can say it, and you know, we can say we need a sidewalk, but there isn't one right now, and it's been asked for 30 years. What can I tell you?
Are there any other, is anyone on Zoom with their hand up?
No.
I was like, Maggie.
So Marty Purnell again, I completely agree with your statements. I think the assembled people here are trying to indicate to the planning commission that they care about this particular area. And the planning commission does have some capability to guide how the subdivision occurs. I mean, you can do the 50%. Those areas can be set aside, and those can be permanently protected within this subdivision, right? So I think maybe both things can happen. If people come out to public hearings and we're just continually told, no, it's just what the applicant wants, it's just what the almighty dollar drives. The people in Washington have always been rather passionate about their land and what goes on. And, and I think everybody who lives here really appreciates that. So, I hope the commission will make an effort to work with the applicant, and maybe something a little bit better might be able to be generated. It's just a suggestion.
Oh, good, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, folks. I thought that wasn't supposed to happen on Zoom.
What did we do on Zoom?
No, it's like if I click on something else.
Well, there you go.
Okay. There's a hand raised?
Over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Wanted to follow up to the point that
Name and address, please.
Sue Nang, first, I just wanted to thank the commission. All of us, all our neighbors here to the special place. Many of us are. So I just want to recognize the work of the commission and to say that have power to sway this town, and it's because of you that we all look like we don't right down the street. And I think all that we would ask for is for consider each of the these are lots that are right off the street. They are, in our eye, really sitting right on the level. And I think it would go a long way to both marry all the concerns that
that so many of us have raised tonight, and the history that Dimitri just went through. I think it would be consistent with our goals to review that and to give us the time to review that ourselves with council.
My name is Antonius Cooper. I live on 75 Upper Churchill Road and again, I want to echo wonderful work, that you have all very instructive. Watching you operate and see how it gets done. So thank you for that. Echoing what Sue said and building on it, I think I want to give an opportunity to Mr. Schiller to actually be consistent with what he says publicly, as is evident on websites, etc., where he talks about his great interest in conservation. I think Mr. Schiller, this is a great.
This is really, I'm sorry, but you have to address us.
Yeah, so to the commission, so I'd like to address the commission and say, this is an amazing opportunity for Mr. Schiller to actually show that he can be consistent with the values he professes to espouse, that he discusses in the articles online, paper magazines about his professional endeavors. So this is a wonderful example of where conservation could be served by ensuring that lot 1 and 2 get collapsed into one lot, and that no construction takes place that close to the wetlands. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Since 8, and have the good fortune of going to 13, 14 years ago, and was very good friends with the Lakers. In fact, my dad and Edwin's dad went to college together. So I have a long connection with the Lakers. I also had the good fortune of serving on inland wetlands when I was here, and I worked with Margie, and I also have been by the state of Connecticut as a conservation, master wildlife conservationist. So I have some experience and training. So, and I'm not sure that this is the right place, but one of the things that I learned when I was on wetlands was the consideration of feasible and prudent. I understand it. They did not consider for the entryway through the field any prudent and feasible alternatives. And so I think that's a concern. But that was the most important things I learned when I served on wetlands here.
That would be a question, Paul would.
Yeah, Director Paul Smith again. So for the original application of wetlands, we had shown 2 individual driveways pulling off of Upper Churchill. That was consolidated to 1 driveway. So there were alternatives considered. They were implemented, and there's no direct disturbances as part of the application.
And I would like
That's
to.
actually incorrect.
Okay.
That's
Well,
if
that road has to be changed.
this right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse. That's the access there that you have concerns over. As I'm looking at the map, that is not in the wetlands.
That road myself.
Yeah, our soil scientist flagged the wetlands. That's all I can say.
Okay.
I don't know if she's a soil scientist.
I'm not a soil scientist. It is all my other kind of.
Again, we are not the Wetlands Commission. We're the Planning Commission. When and if any of these parcels are to be developed, the applicant would have to go to wetlands at that point again, per each lot.
So it seems like there's a lot of concern about the wetlands. Would you say that seems to be the community response that you're getting? it also, seems that there was no notice about this development. And that the neighbors haphazardly found out about it by perusing, your agenda items, which it sounds like we need to be more studious and better citizens. So given this concern, isn't it in your purview as a committee to recognize that there could be further study about these wetlands issues before you conceptually make any decisions about this? And I know that there's still a number of loose items that were not taken care of that you talked about at the top of the meeting with the storm drainage and some other line items so this package is not something you can actually vote on today. So I assume that this is going to be something that you continue to pursue for the next meeting. And in that time period, is there the ability for you to tell wetlands or suggest to wetlands, and I'm also talking to Shelley here, that there be a similar hearing where neighbors could voice their concerns? Because what we're hearing is that you're basically saying that you want, it sounds like a rubber stamp. And I think we hope that government is a little more nuanced than that.
Well, two things. One is that you were very effective in sending this letter out to all of us. If, as you identified, much of your concern is to the Wetlands Commission, then you should petition the Wetlands Commission for review of their approval to us, which we can't question. They approved it they sent us the approval. We're not the Wetlands Commission, they are. So I urge you, since your concern is well stated, that's where you should put your concern. The fact that we are not going to be able to act on this today has already been stated. We've given the public an opportunity to state their point of view. That's a matter of public record. When this comes before us again, that will be part of the record, and there will also be an opportunity to speak to anything that has been done, changed, or approved in the meantime. So I think in terms of public access, the fact that signage wasn't done in an appropriate manner is something that's going to be, this is not a fait accompli. And if this were a rubber stamp, it certainly bounced pretty high tonight. And we weren't expecting it to land anywhere else tonight either. So we can continue this discussion.
One other question.
Yes.
So it sounds like this is, as you say, considered. Obviously, many of us urge or outright rejection of this stuff. One thing would be very helpful, since the wetlands review or careful wetlands review, as I now understand it, occurs when there's actually development interest or plots get sold.
Correct.
Can you require a notice requirement as part of that wetland review, so you're aware of it well in advance? As part of that.
Well, that-
Yes, wetlands.
Wetlands, each commission notices their own stuff. I mean,
Or doesn't notice.
We just had no idea it happened.
no, I understand. I mean, the noticing requirements are the noticing requirements.
Yeah.
And many of those are, they're what the state says.
Yeah.
So, when we had a preliminary discussion at last month's meeting on this application, we did not hold a public hearing. Typically, that is done by the land use commissions. We just like to have an informal conversation so that we can kind of see, okay, what are we getting into here? What's this about? We don't, those types of meetings are actually helpful not only for us, but for the applicants as well, because many times we say, oh, you need this, and they'll be like, oh, I totally forgot about it. So it's typically mutually beneficial. But again, that's not required. Like in our regulations, we suggest that an applicant does that. They don't have to. They chose to do that. So that's how we operate on the planning commission. How the zoning commission chooses to operate, or how the wetlands commission is up to their, that's, you know, I don't want to call it siloed, because it's not siloed. We do talk to each other, when the wetlands commission did their site visit, planning commission joined them, and we did it together, because why make the we were like, well, why make them come out twice? You know, we all know where the property is. So so we do talk to each other. So it's a small town, it's like, we have commissioners who serve on more than one commission. So, yeah, so, so it's, it's a small town. People wear multiple hats. It's how stuff gets done. And, you could dock our pay, but none of us get paid. So, are there any other, yes, sir.
My name is Raja Chatterjee. I live at 128 Upper Churchill. I'm a neighbor of Dr. Sussman. I just wanted to second, regardless of what happens with the killers, that corner there is a very dangerous corner for everybody concerned. People in this room walk that way, know it, because someone's blind because of the rush. And especially if you are going to grant approval here, something needs to be done to make drivers aware or try and slow them down around that.
Okay.
It's a concern you should bring to the selectmen as well.
I have, and nothing happened.
Okay. Well,
Try again.
The selectman's office is responsible for curb cuts, but if,
And signage.
and
And
sign,
signage to get it through to the town, to the highway department.
right,
I
but,
mean, I understand your concern.
and, if we thought that there would be a significant benefit to having that access way, for lack of a better word, cleared, we could make that a condition of approval. I mean, so there, again, there are things that we could do to try to make things a little more neighbor friendly. Well, no, I understand, because I've driven that section. I know, and I know that, yeah, because the road curves right at that spot. Yeah. Is there anyone in Zoom who wants to? I don't see any hands up. Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak who didn't get a chance to speak?
So I just wanted to say one more time, thank you all for considering our concerns, and also thank Mr. Schiller. He reached out to some of us so we can address our concerns with him. And I hope that we could all work together, because I think we share some of the same, I know that they expressed the love for that corner as well, and that's what drew them to the property. And so I think hopefully what will come out of this, what did come out of this, was that all of these neighbors, I didn't know all of our neighbors, and I got to know a lot of our neighbors. So it was a good catalyst to bring people together. So who knew it took a subdivision to do that? You can put that as your tagline, bringing neighbors together for your mission.
Well, I mean, that could cut both ways, because, I'm in my 9th year as chair planning, I think. And this is the 5th subdivision in my 9 years as chair. And we've only had 4 prior to this, and 2 were for the same property because the applicant botched the first one. So we really only had 3.
Right.
So, I mean, I would always go to other commissions about nobody's subdividing land here. And we've had this, I don't know, there's been this mantra over decades in Washington that there's evil developers like lined up on the outside borders of the town.
Yeah.
We're ready to race in here like the Oklahoma land rush, and they're just gonna pave over Washington and cut it up into cul-de-sacs. That is so far from reality that I can't even begin to tell you how far away from reality that is. So
I would like to point something out. The planning commission had 4 public meetings talk about our next revised plan, which is coming out in the near future. And in those 4 meetings, there were a total of 6 people.
And we went to the neighborhoods.
We went to each neighborhood. And at each neighborhood, we were happy to see people. And those were open for discussion about the plan that we're proposing for the next 10 years. And there are 40 people in this room now for one subdivision. Priorities to the community, come to our meetings and help us plan for the future.
You don't even have to
And
come
then-
here, you can watch. I mean,
But my,
I don't mean to blow our own horn here, but we are the only commission that actually puts what we're talking about up on the screen so that people at home can actually see what we're talking about.
so just my point is,
Yeah.
you know, we appreciate your concern for this particular thing, but there are larger issues in this community. And they very often don't get noticed. And then when something like this comes up, all of a sudden there's notice. We could have used your help 20 years ago. And we can continue to use your help.
She did, for the record, she helped.
Anyway, thank you very much all. I've said much.
Go ahead.
Point, I think you've inspired all of us,
Mhm.
so I think you'll definitely see some of our faces. I will say that it inspire us to do it more if we felt that these guidelines actually had some teeth and really were guiding the community in terms of what's planned.
Well, that's a discussion for the later part of the meeting, which probably won't happen because of the hour, but one of the things as chair of planning that I have said for a long time is that although the planning commission is charged with crafting the town plan, we're charged with shepherding it through the process, we're charged with getting it approved, but once it's in place, the planning commission is given no authority whatsoever to implement the plan.
Join zoning.
Yes.
And
As well as other.
we can, so I can go to different commissions and I can coax and I can cajole and I can persuade, but if they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. And sometimes they don't do it. So are there any other comments or questions here? Anything on that? Commissioner? I would move that we're gonna need to continue this because there are a few items that need to be dealt with. So I would move that we continue this public hearing to the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay, the
See you
public
all next
hearing is
time.
continued until same bat time, same bat channel next month. Check the town website for when our meetings are. The first Wednesday of every month, 7 PM. Thank you for small town democracy. That's great. Thank you all. Okay, folks, we are now going to call the regular meeting of the Washington Planning Commission to order. Does anyone need a bathroom break? She took one.
Please carry your conversations outside so we can continue our meeting.
Thank you all. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna call this regular meeting to order.
8:30.
I'm gonna seat the same 5 people that were seated for the public hearing. Consideration of the minutes. First, our regular meeting of July 2nd.
Lovely.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I can't hear because everybody's talking like I told them not to.
Okay, so I actually,
Wait, who?
Exit the room, folks.
Minutes.
folks,
Who-
please, we have more business, so you have the real meeting outside, please.
How, who
Thing about the historic commission.
approved,
Preserving land and county
who
I'll
approved?
remember that I have a change.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I have a change.
Okay,
There's I want to make one, in the minutes, in the minutes, it says that we would hold a public hearing, but it didn't post the date in the minutes. So I
Okay,
want to amend the minutes to say a public hearing shall be held on August 7th.
okay.
It just says a public hearing shall be held, and then we voted to approve it, but the date wasn't put in the minutes.
Okay,
So that's my one.
Okay, noted
Okay.
and approved.
So I would request a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, also, I don't know if you all had a chance to see the minutes from the site walk that Inland Wetlands did. It was basically one paragraph. It said, oh,
We saw.
you were there. Jimmy and I and Jennifer were there. We came, we saw, we walked, conquered. And no decisions were made there, no discussions were made.
And it started to rain.
And it started to rain. Yeah, that shortened the meeting a lot. It's like, do we want to approve these now, or do you want to wait until you actually see
What?
the minutes of the
No, they're fine.
well,
One paragraph.
well, the wetlands already approved.
well,
it.
wetlands already
Oh,
approved.
well,
it,
in that case.
so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion to include items not in the agenda. Anything not on the agenda anyone wants to add? Please say no.
No.
Okay, new applications. We have no new applications. Pending applications. We have this one. It's going to be continued. The public hearing is going to be continued.
Oh, it's, yeah, the public hearing is gonna be continued because they didn't. Oh, wait, oh, no,
We-
that's this. I'm sorry, I'm on another whole thing. Go.
Because we're still missing several documents.
Yeah.
In the application.
Okay.
So, yes.
No, it's
you
renoticing
don't-
is in the minutes.
Yeah,
The
you
minutes
don't-
are a renotice.
They're saying the notice.
They're
on
saying,
top,
but
that
if
doesn't
if
mean-
he
that
has a
doesn't-
picture of
If he
the,
has a picture, yeah, if he said he puts the sign, he's got a picture of the sign, put up the sign. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna drive around, I'm not gonna drive around. It's like-
We're gonna put up more signs. It'll be-
And he's gonna put up more signs, and we've continued the public hearing
Large
anyway.
billboard.
So it's not like we were closing the hearing and voting on it tonight. That would be very improper.
Yeah.
That would- So,
We're moving on.
it was like,
okay,
so if there's a question of whether the sign was there or not, it's up to the
I wanna
applicant.
keep
It's up to the
people.
applicant to verify that there was a sign.
In the dog.
Yeah, it's like,
Don't forget your dog.
yeah. it's a- The dog's like, but the party's out there.
That's mommy all the time.
I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay. All right, so now we have a referral from the zoning commission. And I think I forwarded this all to you before.
All your correspondence.
Now, we don't need to decide on this
Oh,
tonight
thank God.
because the zoning said that they were gonna schedule a public hearing for the end of this month, but they can't. Because they didn't give enough dates, so it's gonna have to be
September.
September.
Thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
You're off the hook there.
We
When's
don't
the due
expect
date?
you to be there in September either. Okay, trooper. The 29th of this month. End of this month.
You're lucky this meeting wasn't more contentious.
Yeah.
Or longer.
Boy, you know, the one meeting that the reporter didn't come to, she'd be so upset. Okay, so,
So wait, so what happened was there was not sufficient noticing on the referral?
So they scheduled the public hearing on the day that it would have had to be sent out to all the cogs and the,
Oh, at like
Planning-
9:30 at night?
yeah, who was gonna do that? I was away. So, no, yeah.
so yeah, they can't hold their public hearing at at the end of August. They're gonna have to do it at the end of September.
So when will you guys?
Well, we typically make our referral beforehand, so we would probably make our referral at our September meeting.
At that September meeting, there will be discussion.
There will be discussion there. We'll probably have some discussion right now too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
You're here.
yeah, and that's fine, yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's like, it's like, I know, well, you have two battle-hardened, battle-scarred veterans over there. Yeah, it's like, it's like, yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like,
Did you actually?
yeah,
move
the trauma team is outside for you guys, yeah.
Intentionally?
Yeah.
It was just an accident?
Okay, now there has been, language submitted by the, I should probably pull it. Well, I can put it up on the screen too.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have it. Well, we can discuss this. Basically, there was proposed language to the regulations submitted by the Washington Club having to do with, well, basically two things. One, they want to create a definition for a club, plain language. And two, they want to list what facilities could be included in a club. I mean, that's a very oversimplification of it, but that's basically what we're looking at. So we don't have to, obviously, we're not going to decide on this tonight in terms of a referral. For those in the public and on Zoom, just give you a little background here. Whenever any board or commission wants to revise their ordinances or regulations or whatnot, they have to submit those proposed revisions to the planning commission for a referral for us to consider and determine whether or not what's proposed is consistent with the town plan. And that is our sole purpose here, whether what is being proposed is consistent with the POCD. Basically, we have four options. We can find it consistent, we can find it inconsistent, we can find it not inconsistent, which is, well, whatever. Or we can find that we have no jurisdiction. Sometimes people come to us and think that we have to approve something that we actually don't. So that's the four options in play here. Obviously, we have jurisdiction because this is zoning regulations. So I haven't really given this a lot of thought, although obviously other people in town have. So
They were giving it thought before it came to my desk.
yeah, from what I can tell,
This is from November 11th, 2014.
It's just, in the letter that I wrote, I referred to that letter, so I just didn't copy it. And I put it right on top.
I want credit also for supplying the mill
oh,
Thank you, very organized.
That's what happens when you're a former commissioner.
Yes, yes, yes. It was very helpful. It was very helpful. We have a new one. We have a new one. Yeah. Now you get your steps in. That's good.
you may, please.
It's more than a definition. I would say proposing it. Zoning it does not have more than looking at the words. I'll explain it. I've explained why I think that's the case in my mind.
Okay.
It's been forwarded to,
The COG.
yeah, and our attorneys. and stuff.
Okay, so the people who were supposed to get it, it's on the way.
Yeah, yeah, they
Okay.
have it.
Good. Well, I haven't had a lot of time to think about this. I mean, if there's other folks who want to comment on this, feel free. I mean, the madding crowd is gone here, so we can, no.
Lucky you.
I mean, yeah, we just got it too. So,
Right.
yeah.
I just printed it on Monday. everything that I would say.
But even the language from zoning, we didn't get.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so we
Well,
haven't,
no, I
yeah, we
understand.
haven't had it very long.
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
It seemed like maybe they-
Yeah, we, well.
I
we
had
got it
to,
the day
I
I
had
wrote
to
the
wait
agenda.
and figure out this whole thing because I was away
Right, right.
and then Tammy was away
We
and
didn't want to
we were all,
complicate
it was just. oh.
Well, we don't do a public hearing for a referral. I mean, we're engaging the public here because it's chairman's prerogative. Yeah, so, but referrals, you know, never well, I shouldn't say never, usually don't require a public hearing. I mean, I think the last time we had a referral that had a public hearing was with the school, right? That was a few years back, so, the school, the ag STEM thing, which was.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, yeah, but anyway, I don't have a lot of thoughts. I mean, the only thoughts I have basically are, okay, we have two clubs in town and they're basically grandfathered because they were both in existence before we had zoning. So we don't allow clubs in the residential district, but these two clubs are pre-existing.
Well, and
So I have that right.
am I right in understanding that the Washington Club owns the land on Saturday Lane? Right. So that's their land, and that land adjoins the golf course?
It's all one
It is
lot.
all one lot.
It's since it was laid out in 1905 or 1906.
Yeah.
It's never been anything but.
Yeah, okay, but that, the land that is on that's on Saturday is,
It's on, I can't remember.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, just, is there anyone here who's a member of the Washington Club?
No.
You are. No, you don't have to. I just, for the record. Yeah, I mean, no, it's okay. You don't necessarily have to recuse, but but for the record, it should be noted.
And this, in 2001, the last time this issue came before the zoning, I recused myself because I had been an opponent within the club. But there was another member of the commission who was a member of the club, did not. I thought they should.
So wait, both Carol and David, you're members?
Yeah.
Okay. But are you members of different parts of the club or all of it?
Yeah. No, I'm just.
Social?
You'll see one of the issues with the application is the way the color is set up. It's very different from the way they go about. But I explain all that in length.
Okay.
And so there's, I'll go through it now. If you'll read it, if you'll promise to read it, then I promise not to read it.
These guys are good. They read their stuff.
We promise we'll read it.
anybody else?
Okay.
That's why I moved over. I saw you.
Oh, that's okay. Well, look, I mean, it's not necessary. It is not a requirement that you recuse, okay? No, it is not. And since we're not actually ruling on the regulations themselves, we're ruling on whether they're consistent with the plan. That we have a very narrow function here on plan, where it's like the yardstick here, there's only one yardstick for us. It's like, is what's being proposed consistent with the plan, yes or no? That's it. So.
Attorney Ziska said, when this issue came up, he said, a small town, you can't recuse yourself from everything. He said,
You never have a quorum.
But he said, no, your heart hearts that you're conflicted.
But also you should have some sort of statement ready. All of you should anyways, by looking through the POCD and stating why you think it is. By and using. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Be warned.
Okay, so,
Considering these proposed regulations tonight.
well, no, we can
No,
discuss them.
You have a whole, you have.
We
you
have, yeah, we have a whole.
Send me any questions.
Right.
And then I can refer them to Wayne
Right.
and we can talk about it
Right.
in September.
Is anybody here dying to see this court where they are and want to talk to that value? That's why you're, no. Anybody here? No.
Well, they don't have a
You live on
final
the road,
plan.
right? Yeah. Still live on Saturday.
Well, look, this is a residential district.
Mhm.
Okay, tennis courts are allowed in the residential district.
Yeah.
So
sort of.
well, if you're, okay, just say you're private property owner. Okay, you said, you can have a tennis court. Right, yeah, I think you can have one tennis court unilluminated,
Mhm.
right, so,
Their plan is not illuminated.
well,
Oh,
what
it's
the,
illuminated.
they're proposing criteria, yeah.
Zoning commission created a definition at the recommendation of the planning commission, 24 years ago, which was for,
Read it.
facility
It's
that
in there.
was installed.
I think I gave it to you.
In three of the, but not in any of the residential zones, but three of the towns for business. So to have a tennis club as opposed to a tennis court at your house, it's permitted in three of the towns for businesses.
Business
and not
districts.
in-
Not in the residential districts.
What I was applying for is for itself, a property on a golf course it owns to be able to build a tennis facility. So it's more than a definition change. They're basically asking for
They're actually defining a new term.
more than that, they're asking for the creative use, that does not now, a legal use that does not now exist.
That's the second part.
And their intention is that it only be on one specific property, which I would, is another complication. It's on an existing golf course, it's only one in R1. And they actually have on that property, there's only one 4-acre patch where they can build it, and that they've done engineering studies for, they have plans for. So it's an unusual, the state law says that you can, the uses don't have to be identical from zone to zone.
Correct.
Within a zone, you can't allow something on one property that isn't allowed.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what is it what we refer to as spot zoning, and that's really frowned on. It's like-
Yeah, I mean,
it's frowned down in this commission too.
I have,
It's
Yeah.
not gone unnoticed.
but there is a hardship involved, right? And in that the gunnery has,
It's a legal term.
well, I see, well, then I'll use it illegally. The gunnery is not gonna, it's going to discontinue the use of their tennis courts for the club. And, right, and well, they're actually going to remove, I think in the long-term plan, the gunnery is actually gonna remove those courts, but that's a whole other problem. Okay, so, but that means that the use that the country club has provided the community.
It's not a country club. It's a golf, there are two properties. There's a
Okay.
golf course in the R1, and there's a.
Well, what was I a member of?
But it's not, it's separate sections, you have to join them separately.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I understand, yeah, because I wasn't, I had to do that
From the
too.
zone point of view, two different uses.
Okay, but the point that I'm trying to make is that by losing the rental property of the tennis courts, they then no longer have the capacity of that function, period. Yeah, they can no longer function as the tennis club.
A property from the, nothing is stopping it from legally operating a tennis club without.
Someplace else, right? And so the question is, can they use that land as the someplace else? And the contention is because they're two separate functions. Is that the point that you're making?
But I think that if, let's say I rented GW from Barbara and ran a restaurant there, and then they got me they threw me out as a tenant. I couldn't then say, well, I used to run a restaurant in town. There's no place in the place where it's legal I want to do it. So I want to start a restaurant on my residential property next to my house in the R1. There's no.
It's sort of like Wickham. Yeah, so what they could, what would they be able to buy a piece of land and someplace else like?
Free zones where they can do it, they could create it, they could
I'm just-
arrange it with another school, which is what the planning commission recommended last time. They said it was an inappropriate use. Pardon me?
Alright.
It was an inappropriate use in the R1, but they suggested that we talked about school. They've had a relationship for more than a century with a
school in town. They have not looked into that. And
I
I think
think
that
Even
they're-
if they can't,
it's not, it doesn't make it.
So even if they were to subdivide that land in question from the club, it still would.
Yeah, would you,
Well,
let's say.
Well,
they
so-
subdivide-
well- if they subdivide the land and propose a house on it, they would, yeah, I mean, we would be able to object to that. I mean,
They can subdivide it, but then, and then.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not suggesting this, I'm just asking.
They're trying to protect themselves from foreclosure by a bank. Which would not.
Okay. Well, that's a little too inside baseball for our purposes. I mean,
The proposed changes to the zoning regulations, it's creating use that benefits only one property owner in town, not only one very small part of the property that's in. It's an unusual use of the regs, and also, I believe, violates both the spirit and the word of the current plan of conservation development, also the draft of the ordinance. And I was one, I did come to one of the meetings.
Are you talking about the proposed definition? Where on the agenda are you?
Yes, I'm talking about the proposed definition. Take what they call a definition. I think they're proposing a new use that does not currently exist. There is no legal use in marijuana that is a recreational.
Yeah, that would have to be put under a
Right.
use.
would have to be put
Would have
under
to be
use.
a legal use.
Yeah,
Right now, it's existing golf course and
it's a pre-existing, yeah, a
And
pre-existing
the zoning
golf
regulations
course.
treat it
Yeah,
as a golf course, and they've gone, taken special care to word current regulations so that tennis courts could not be built.
Okay, that's interesting, but not relevant to the issue. The issue for us is, again, much more narrow than that.
But it does fit
Okay.
I think it does fit your, it will fit, read my letter, read my.
We promise we will.
I know you.
Yeah,
Especially because you
Tonight.
gave us this lovely,
At the time of the meeting.
I can use,
Shut up,
I can use this to nail out all sorts of.
I'm not suggesting that you should have read it by now, I'm just saying that I'll shut up.
It's not even on the agenda.
Yes, it
it
is.
is. It's on the
Yeah.
agenda. I don't want to hear anybody's crap. Run that place.
I mean, whether, those are all interesting points, but I would say that if the zoning commission chooses to create a new use in a zone, that is their, you know, they can do that and bring that to us and ask if whether that's.
Consistent with the plan of conservation and development.
Not commenting before the zoning commission decides whether, well, when the same, basically the same proposal, actually more modest version of this proposal, came to the plan, came to zoning, petition the zoning in 2001, it came to planning unanimously voted against it, recommended to zoning that they not adopt that they not adopt that.
I remember.
Dimitri, at least, it's back before the dawn of time, so.
I lived here, but I wasn't, you know, but
I remember it.
I remember it
So
too.
it's not, there is a history of it. And then, again, in 2014, before the commission during the last revision. Anyway, it's like,
That's all right. No, it's like, but we, you know, we'll read through the stuff, we'll read what's being proposed. Anybody can propose a revision to any regulation. So the fact that the club is doing it is really irrelevant to our evaluation of it. It's like, you know, I mean, your neighbor could have, you know, done, it's like, we have the tree view shade, it's the same. And it's like, so,
Yeah. more
and
yeah.
of course, you know, to think, well, it's not really back. We have to rule before zoning takes it up, because if we don't, that means that we approve of it. So if we make no referral, that's an implicit approval. Right, so,
And we can disapprove it and they can go right ahead anyway.
and they've done that to us more than once. Yes.
It's a little hard for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they've
They've done
steamrolled
it.
us more than once on things where they clearly made mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has.
Living memories.
Mhm.
It increases my memory.
And mine too.
Mine's.
Only one when I was,
Looking back to see
Mhm.
what happened.
oh, I know what happened. Yeah.
Just refresh, just
Yeah.
refresh.
It was basically trounced both times.
Yeah.
So,
That's what
yeah, I mean, it was. So, okay, we will look at this, you know, and give it our due diligence. We, you know, referrals are something we get all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, unlike subdivisions, which we never see. We get a referral almost every month from some commission or some
Yeah.
wanting to check, you know, the consistency of the plan is.
I remember.
Yeah, so, so we'll all do our homework between now and the next meeting. Thank you for the input. Is there any other comments that anyone wants to make? Because, you know, as I said, because we got this so recently, you know, we haven't even, you know, I just glanced through the regulations once and I personally, I saw the word illuminated and I was like, that's good luck with that one.
Exactly. I know that's a key word in somebody's mind.
Well, I just,
No,
we don't
that's-
allow illuminated tennis courts
That's
anywhere. in
that's a
town,
trigger.
In any district. In fact. And I'm thinking, it's like, yeah, you're gonna allow
I don't know,
one
maybe
property in
throwing
town to have
spaghetti
an
at a wall?
illuminated tennis court and no one else, or some rich person with a nice tennis court's gonna jump ugly and cry foul, and they would have a point. And that's, I mean, that was my first thing, I was like,
I think playing in the dark is actually challenging.
yeah, don't they have like glow in the dark?
That's what I was just
balls?
about to
Yeah,
say,
I
glow in the
mean,
dark balls.
I mean, it could be.
Yep.
Well, it's not gonna be much, so, okay, so we all agree, we'll do our homework between now and then on this, and also, and come up with a cogent referral. Right, yeah.
Who knew? Parting gifts.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
You know, we have months where no one shows up. We revised our subdivision regulations last year. And we spent 2 years revising them stem to stern. We held a public hearing.
Nobody showed up.
I believe it.
To revise the subdivision regulations.
Has planning ever filmed?
No.
Wetlands and zoning.
Yeah, I think the last time we filled that, yeah.
Okay.
Let's whiz through this. Come on. It's past my bedtime. I need to start getting my bed stuff ready.
Can we do updates another time?
Yeah, we're just gonna, yeah.
But I
we're-
just
we're
want to
gonna-
say for the record, I was prepared to.
Okay, let's get, we're still recording. Let's get this through for the record so we can go home, folks, okay? All right, committee reports, sustainability. We're not, is there a report tonight?
As I said.
Is there a report tonight? There's no, Economic Development Committee, I was at the meeting and there's really, no, nothing that can't wait till, plan of conservation and development. Let's just say quickly that the 4 outreach things
Yeah.
were a bust.
Yeah.
No one came.
No one came.
No one came. And there were more people here tonight than all 4 of
I
them
said that,
combined.
yeah.
It was just
We
like,
should have made him stay and discuss the plan with him.
yeah, we should have made them do it before we opened the public hearing, so they had to stay.
I think I need to feel
Yeah, a little bit.
Excuse me, I was there.
I
Let the record show that, yes, somebody did show up and have some constructive input.
And you dragged a friend with you.
Yeah, he dragged a hostage.
From Lake Warmog Task Force, since that's now in plan.
Anyway, actually, for those who are, Brian actually brought up a really good point
Yeah.
that we need to correct in our draft about about unpaved roads and that the way I wrote it was actually not so cool. And that we're gonna need to massage that language a bit because a strict reading of it could basically be interpreted as we want to pave all the paved roads. That's not really what was
I
intended.
think I made a note.
Yeah, I made a note of that, and we're gonna, so Brian, trust that we're gonna revisit that and make that a little more closer to reality and, you know, an intent that I think that you'll be able to live with. Okay?
I got a couple other written comments. When I get them written up, I'll send them to you.
Great. Okay, so at this point, I think we will start to go through and just get the finishing touches on this. Now, Shelley, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but when we call a public hearing for the plan, I think there's a longer window that we have to, rather than the 30. Can you look it up? It's 8-23. Connecticut statute 8-23 that lists all the things. And one of the things lists how many days you have to notice a public hearing. I think it's longer than usual. So, what's it? So let's just, okay, so we're gonna leave that with the lateness of the hour. Okay, communications, I don't know, Shelley, did you copy everyone in the housing forum? That's
Probably
happening,
did, but it's been a crazy week.
On
Yeah.
September 11th, I think it is. I can't go. They asked for like, and if you want to go, let Shelley know. If not, maybe we should reach out to the housing commission. Maybe we can get one, see if one of them want to go.
I'm not gonna go.
I'm not gonna go. I can't.
Well, what I've been doing is if you want to go, sign up and let me know, but sign up, pay for it and give what's her,
Yeah, it's only like $20.
Yeah.
It's a,
give
but if
the
you go,
finance
it
office
counts
the
towards
receipt.
at the 4 hours every 2 years.
Mhm.
So if you go, but although we're all good for another year, so.
Yeah.
Oh, Shelley, one other thing, you sent out a PDF with a notice for some kind of meeting in, like the 5th Thursday.
Yeah.
You can't, something about the PDF, you can't swipe the Zoom stuff off the PDF for some reason.
Okay,
So
I'll
if
send
you-
out the main, I'll just forward the email.
Zoom link doesn't work?
You can't Zoom, yeah, it doesn't work and you
okay.
can't swipe it either. PDF will let
Can't
you do a
copy it.
copy of it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. That was the other thing in communications, the 5th Thursdays, the COG does a 5th Thursday. The guy,
You
it's
could
the,
probably go on their website too,
yeah,
but I'll.
it's the Connecticut Main Street guys.
upload it
who
on everything
Michelle
else
and
that I'm
I,
doing.
actually did a walkthrough, this past week, of the depot. It was interesting, I mean, but you can zoom it, so if you want, I mean, so,
Yeah, I was
that's
curious.
the other thing, and that's whatever the 5th Thursday of the
Yeah.
month is.
Mhm.
I think you're occupied.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not either.
Yeah, I'm actually picking up my daughter at the airport.
Oh,
that night.
you're off the hook too.
Yes, 2 years abroad.
Wow.
She's coming home after 2 years abroad.
Yeah, you're not even getting recognized.
Oh, yeah. Dad, can I borrow the car? Yeah. Okay, administrative business, is there anything we left out? Please say no, Sean.
No.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Boy, I would have warned you had I known.
No, there was
that
no
that
way to,
was-
there was no way to prepare for that.
I was like, but I loved your comment. It's like, you know, can only get 6